No action commands means we can't press buttons during Mario and Luigi's attacks, resulting in much less damage. We also can't press buttons during enemy attacks, making us take damage from every attack they use. Unless they just decide not to hit us. What, are they doing a challenge run or something? This game also has slightly random damage. Here we take and deal 2 or 3 damage. With the 5 mushrooms Mario stashed from the Mushroom Kingdom, he'll need to get a little lucky with some high damage rolls and low enemy rolls to win this fight. After 3 losses, Mario meets back up with Luigi before launching to the first island. Prior to leaving, ignore Snotlet and pick up the mushroom, 1-up mushroom, and the nut. Luigi! I'm using scavenging rolls where the only items I can pick up are non-repeatable ones like overworld items and blocks and guaranteed drops from bosses, but buying items, fishing items, and random drops from regular enemies all get sold to make things more interesting. This is to limit item usage without requiring us to overlevel enemies. Oh yeah, I'm also using a level cap where I can't overlevel enemies, and if I absolutely need to, I'll do fights at the minimum level reasonably possible without getting absurdly lucky RNG. I'll let you know what level I'm at if I do this, and if I don't say anything, that means I'm at the same level as the enemy. Upon landing on Gorumbla Island, we're forced into a mandatory battle before being able to pick up any items. The 2 guard arms deal more damage than the seedlings, but this time we have Luigi. He's also terrible, but we can make 2 attacks each turn now. He's got the advantage of having a higher defense stat than Mario, taking 1 less damage to attacks on average, and having higher health to boot, making him the best bro right now. To win this fight, we'll need to maximize the efficiency of our 3 items, waiting to be 1 hit away from fainting before using a mushroom, and having both bros low before using the nut, which heals both of them for 20 health. Of course, this means the fight is largely decided by RNG, needing the guard arms to get 1 bro low and then stop attacking him so they can fully heal. It takes a few tries, but we can barely win. Before going to the next mandatory battle, make sure to pick up all 3 mushrooms, even this one that thought I wouldn't notice. Fortunately, this is the first strike tutorial, which doesn't use an action command and deals double our damage to every enemy. Even with this huge boon, fighting 3 enemies is brutal. We take 3 hits every turn, which can bring Mario down to 1 health in a single wave of enemy attacks. It takes 3 turns of our attacks to kill a single Seedle, and unfortunately, 4 mushrooms can't beat this battle. Even if we wanted to allow items or grinding for this fight, shops aren't available until after this fight, and there aren't any optional fights to grind yet. Do we really need an action command to make this stupid fight possible? Nope. If no action commands isn't enough of a challenge, the game has built-in challenges with rewards for beating them. The one I'm looking at right now is using 20 items, but the number of items we can pick up right now is 12. In order to increase this number, make sure to lose a fight. No problem there. By pressing try again instead of going back to the last save, the counter of total items used includes the items consumed in the lost attempt, while we get our items back from restarting the battle. This gives us 2 1-up mushrooms, and one of them is just enough to push us through the rest of the fight, with some luck of having the final Seedle target Luigi multiple times in a row. The next fight is against 3 guard arms, which scared me since we can't first strike required fights anymore. But this actually isn't that bad, since we're forced to be a level higher than them from only doing mandatory battles. I know I could intentionally let a bro die to not level up, but that's cruel and unusual. It's worth noting, you can grind money infinitely already by going into an optional battle, killing 1 enemy, and fleeing for that sweet 1 coin to upgrade both bros' gear to the fullest, which I am not doing right now. Believe me, we'll be grinding a lot in this challenge for pretty much anything that's not experience. We only take 2 or 3 damage from each guard arm now, so 1 super nut, unlocked by getting 30 first strikes, is enough to get us through, and into a fight against 4 guard arms, And again, we run into the problem of one more enemy amplifying the damage we take, and the number of turns the battle takes enough where 3 guard arms were a relatively easy fight, and 4 can't be done with our current gear. Fortunately, we get 1 dirt cheap wear for free, which gives 3 extra defense. But remember that cruel and unusual thing from like 30 seconds ago? Yeah. We can buy more dirt cheap wear and discount boots to increase our damage. Ha, just kidding. It's so easy to lie. To increase our chance of dealing 3 damage, so we can more consistently get rid of a guard arm with less attacks. I also gave Luigi a defense bean from the item buffet achievement. Beans are a limited resource that permanently increase their corresponding stat, so I only use them when absolutely necessary, to avoid accidentally softlocking my save file. And for the early game, Luigi's higher defense is going to be one of the most important factors into winning any tough battle. Both bros now take 1 to 3 damage randomly, which is a pretty high variance, but Luigi is more likely to take less damage. We still need to use 2 of our 1-ups, 1 nut, and 1 mushroom to win, but we can finally reconnect the island. And insultingly, now that we're done with the tutorial section of the game, turnips can respawn for faster money. We'll make a habit of immediately revisiting islands after reconnecting them to pick up the sprite bulbs and items in areas unlocked from the blooming flowers. That scream from the beach can wait. After that, we've got our first branching story decision, saving Build It or Make It first. Saving Build It will have him give us special quests to craft unique gloves, and Make It will have her do the same but for accessories. Make It, it's not even close. I chose Build It in my casual playthrough, and his gloves are so bad that I'm still upset that I randomly picked him there. Both islands with the siblings don't have any required fights, and after fighting Make It, she gives us hammers. These are amazing, as we now have access to more items hidden in boxes, and the hammer attack does much more damage than a jump. Probably since hammers only hit once, as opposed to how you're supposed to jump on an enemy twice with a jump attack. To maximize my resources, I'll have to score 101 hits in a row in the Hammer Rally minigame, so that's gonna take a while. Somehow I did that on my first try, even though I gave up trying to beat this in my casual playthrough. We take those, and the Luck Charm DX as a prize. While grinding to match the next enemy's level of 6, I noticed that the Dodge 100 attacks achievement was going down. After briefly panicking, I realized what was happening was that Bumbleshoots have 2 attacks that always miss if you don't attempt to dodge. So that's another achievement we can surprisingly complete, Watchful Eye, for a 1-up DX. Kind of underwhelming, but I guess you're supposed to get this one easily and early. The 2 guard arms take much more damage thanks to our hammers, but do more damage themselves, so we still need 2 mushrooms to win, which means it's time to fight the first boss, Gorumbla. Mario and Luigi have the best boots, wear, and hammers, with no effects at this point in the game. That just leaves gloves and accessories. Luigi will be wearing the bronze medallion from a Hammer Rally prize, which makes him more likely to be targeted by attacks than Mario. I was trying out Build It gloves for a small damage increase, and Luck Charm DX on Mario to double his nearly non-existent lucky hit chance. Even while matching Gorumbla's level, we just take too much damage and run out of items too quickly, despite this being a section of the game that gives us the most overrolled items by far. I think it is possible level 7, but you're at the mercy of RNG, mostly hoping Gorumbla uses his punch attack instead of the block attack, as that does much more damage and is more likely to hit Mario. So unfortunately, I had to overlevel the boss by 1 to make this fight doable. Level 8 is our first rank up. Luigi being our tank makes HP up an easy choice, but Mario's choices had me wondering what the best option would really be. I actually had to redo the entire challenge because I picked Stash Up Plus the first time, as Mario's damage will be a win condition for many later fights. However, I didn't realize speed could give you extra turns, as it used to not do that. So, Speed Up Plus is actually the obvious choice, and there goes 20 hours of progress. The first time I did this fight was without the knowledge of gaining extra turns, but this time around Mario has 1 more speed from Speed Up Plus, 3 extra speed from Luck Charm DX, and 2 speed beans. So he'll get an extra attack every couple of turns. The first time I did this fight was without the extra speed, leaving me with a single 1-up mushroom left by the end. I lost some of my footage for the rematch, but I think I had like 6 mushrooms and about 3 1-ups left, so the speed is already paying off. It's worth noting that Luigi logic almost always requires an action command to do anything, and this is no exception. This makes us lose the opportunity to stun the boss and deal major damage. It's also annoying because the game really wants you to press Luigi logic, so it defaults there at the start of your turn, and even moves there if you close a menu, so I have to make sure to not accidentally waste a turn in this hour-long fight. Next up is Gobblick, who is even worse than Gorumbla. This fight punishes you for missing action commands much harder, with one attack being able to stun the bro it hits, skipping their turns until it wears off, and stops the other bro from using bro's attacks. That's actually bad, as missing Mario's red shell does about triple the damage compared to his hammer. Once Gobblick becomes enraged at about 35% of its health, it gains a chomp attack that deals damage to both bros and heals it for 15 to 30 health, healing more on a bro with lower defense. That's really bad, as our best attack deals about 35 damage. Gobblick can just decide a fight is unwinnable by using this attack often. Luigi logic is once again useless, by the way. I didn't know this before, but apparently this doesn't time out, so Luigi just gets soft locked by doing absolutely nothing. Once again, we're in a situation where a fight is theoretically possible at the same level of the boss by not getting stunned, and Gobblick using his attack that bounces objects a bit above Mario and Luigi, but once again, getting unreasonably lucky in an hour-long fight consistently just is not very likely. On my rematch, I kept losing and wondering how I beat it at level 13 the first time, and looked back at my footage to find that I beat it at level 14 instead. Pretty good strategy if I do say so myself. The second time I needed to be level 14 again, although I did save more items. The best wear right now is Cozy Wear, with the additional ability to raise a bro's defense by 20% for a few turns after getting hit. Pair it with Bronze Medallion to give Luigi the buff that typically will only disappear when he faints and needs to be revived with the 1-up, which I try to avoid by prioritizing healing with mushrooms instead. He has a soft hammer to lower the boss's defense by 30%. Debuffs on bosses don't last very long and often go away by the time they attack and the turn goes to Mario. But every once in a while it'll boost his red shell's damage by like 5. The sad thing is that's actually really important. Mario will be wearing speed gloves for a while to boost his speed by 10%. Both bros have slowdown boots, which lowers the boss's speed by 30%, which I usually use when one bro is stunned to give the boss fewer turns. Mario uses red shell every turn he can, which means a bro will sneak in a syrup jar instead of a slowdown jump to maximize our damage. And at level 14, our defense is higher, which means less healing from the chomp attack, making the fight much less RNG reliant. At this point, I'm hoping plugs will save the run and make bosses doable without overleveling at all. Speaking of, the next important fight is against 10. This time Mario has Bro's Wear for the extra defense, which works a little better since he gets hit far less often. It also restores 1 BP if he does get hit, letting us spam red shells more often. Luigi keeps Cozy Wear as the 20% defense buff is a little bit better since it stays up. 10 summons 2 Snaptors, and will only summon another 2 once both are killed, so I focus 1 down as soon as they're summoned. Surprisingly, red shell hits airborne targets as it bounces on a failed action command, so it doesn't take too long to lower the amount of attacks we're taking. Unfortunately, we still have to overlevel 10 by 1 level to make this fight doable, but hey, that means we get our second rank up. This is an easy one I can't possibly mess up this time. Mario gets power up plus and Luigi gets defense up plus. I can mess up saying it though, I guess. This way they can excel at their roles. After the fight, 10 drops battle plugs and a battle tap, unlocking the only mechanic that made me do this challenge in a Mario and Luigi game. With this, our run is saved. Or maybe not. We're immediately forced into a battle plug tutorial fight. That wouldn't be so bad, but the first plug we're required to use is easy peasy counters. This makes countering attacks easier. Not very helpful when you can't counter, but we can't progress the game until we successfully use the plug. We can't flee, can't damage the boss, and can't use a different plug instead. So we're forced to use our first action command of the challenge, making this a minimum action command challenge. At least we only need to counter a single shot to progress. Plugs were supposed to save us, but instead they, didn't. But Snotlet isn't content with watching us struggle just yet. You'll never guess what the second plug we're required to use is. Kaboom Attack, which has a jump or hammer attack do a little bit of damage to nearby enemies, but only on a successful action command. Dang it. 10's health bar can go down this time for some reason, but he'll never die. He's pretty fun to hit though, so feel free to take out your frustration on him. But eventually, action command number 2 is an excellent jump attack. Hey, on the bright side, only 29 more to go for some nuts. We can finally use the sprite bulbs we've been collecting to craft plugs. I pick up all available bulbs as soon as possible, but we only unlock more by progressing the story and going to new islands, so we'll have to be careful with how we spend it. We unlock the ability to craft better plugs after crafting a specific number of plugs. Sure-footed guard is one of the cheapest plugs and is one of the best for this challenge, as it prevents a bro from being knocked down or getting stunned, making bosses that can do that a lot less RNG reliant to beat, and will allow us to use bros attacks much more often. It also helps against the mandatory 3 Snaptors fight, which is the first mandatory battle we can beat without items. Coins Island is our next destination that gives us multiple important upgrades. Coins boots are the best boots in the entire game for this challenge, as they give both bros 8 extra defense and we won't be using jump attacks very often anymore, so they'll stay equipped for the rest of the game as the only other boots that give defense give less. We'll come back for the golden gloves later. By picking up every sprite bulb we can so far, we have just enough to craft 2 of the most important plugs in this challenge. But first, we craft Auto Mushroom, Auto Syrup, Auto Herb, and Auto 1-Up. To get to the next tier, we have to buy some low impact plugs for the challenge, so I craft the cheapest available ones, Surprise Iron Ball, Dizzyfying Attack, and Anti-Flying Specialist. This finally lets us craft boomerang items to get items back after using them. This is always useful in boss fights, but it also lets us heal without using items in regular combats when the game doesn't give us a heal block like it does in between 2 mandatory battles on this island. Wow, that's pretty neat. We can recharge plugs by going back to regular battles after we get to the heal block and running away before winning or dying. This lets me recharge plugs before the boss, so always assume I go into every major encounter with my plugs fully recharged. Because that's what I did. It took so long, but I had to, so... We also craft Auto Excellent. I know, this is a no action command challenge, and Auto Excellent arguably breaks the rules. But without it, we would have to greatly overlevel bosses from now on. Like at least 10 levels for some, and even more for others, as the game expects you to use plugs, so they're going to be much stronger, with a couple of notable fights basically being damage checks due to their gimmicks. My semantics for allowing Auto Excellent are the same as they've been in my other no action commands videos. I count action commands as things that can be missed while attacking or getting attacked. And even though the game shows you the buttons that you'd normally have to press while an Auto Excellent attack is happening, you can't miss it and you don't press anything, effectively removing the action command entirely. This isn't anywhere close to a free win, as we're about to see, with only 5 charges, and if nothing else, we're still doing a no dodging challenge. Which, fun fact, I was in the middle of recording and was going to be the second challenge run on my channel before I got beat to it, and then was sad. Case in point, I needed to overlevel the Mega Snaptor by 1 level to make this fight doable. This is because of how much damage he does in a single attack during his second phase, which starts way earlier than Gobblick's after only losing about a third of his health. The attack that triggers the Luigi logic shoots 6 gusts of wind that do about 10 damage to Luigi and 16 to Mario. And that's when they're a level above the boss. This completely melts their health bars. But bosses have enough speed to do about 2 attacks a turn, so after both attacks it's very common for a brother to faint, which then requires using a 1-up mushroom, effectively wasting a turn for the boss to just do that again. I also have to mention that Auto Excellent doesn't work with Luigi logic, so we're not getting out of this one easily. Making this by far the deadliest attack we've not dodged yet, and if the boss isn't going to fight fair, I won't either. The main thing stopping us from winning is the weakness of any battle plug, where we have to wait for them to recharge after their limited uses. In this case, Auto Excellent can only be used 5 times before having to wait 20 turns for it to recharge. We do have the option to hold all 5 charges until the second phase starts, but then we'd have to use much more of our finite items, as Boomerang items only has 5 charges and takes 30 turns to recharge. We will not survive that long. And just in case anyone was wondering, the attack where the Mega Scraptor drops rocks and mushrooms always drops the rocks on the ground, and the mushrooms always bounce above us. So it's time to pull out the funniest trick in this game. Boo Biscuits are useless in other Mario and Luigi games. They make both bros invincible, but deal no counter damage to enemies while they attack about 5 times in a row. They're really just there to let a player learn when to dodge or counter attacks. But in this game, turn count actually does something. While the boss uselessly attacks us, our plugs are recharging. Now, this is extremely funny, and seemingly overpowered, but there are many limiting factors and, quite frankly, bizarre weaknesses to this that I'll explain as they become relevant. For this run specifically, since I can only use scavenged items, I'm limited in the amount of Boo Biscuits I can pick up, so I only use them when Boomerang items is equipped, which again only has 5 charges. Other items are less important, so they usually won't come back after use. All this lets us do is spend the fewest amount of turns possible taking damage on the second phase. I intentionally entered the fight with 4 Auto Excellent charges so Mario can do as much damage as possible during the phase transition, and have that same attack cause the plug to start recharging. I also have to manage my 2 plug slots effectively. I almost always have Sure-Footed Guard and Auto Excellent when I can, so I never lose any turns or Bros attacks opportunities. But sometimes I'll switch Sure-Footed Guard to Auto Mushroom or Auto 1-Up, so I don't need to spend a turn using items. After Auto Excellent is used up, it's time to start recharging it with Boo Biscuits. There is a risk when using these that the enemy will get 1 attack in after the Boo Biscuit wears off, which is especially deadly if the attack in question is the Gust attack. I think this is due to speed being weird in this game, like how when Mario gets an extra attack sometimes, that will cut into the boss's usual 2 attacks in a row, making the boss use the second attack after Mario. This makes it so turn order doesn't stay the same for the entire fight, which sometimes gives the boss its 1 attack between when the Boo Biscuit usually passes the turn to the other bro. Speaking of Boo Biscuit weaknesses, you can't use it if one bro is fainted, has a status effect, or is knocked out of the field by some specific attacks. I don't know why, honestly, that one's pretty weird to me. I use 3 Boo Biscuits until Auto Excellent only needs 3 more turns to recharge. I decided to save my last 2 charges of Boomerang items for my best healing items since we're going to need a couple of missed Bros attacks to kill the boss anyway. Mario's Hatch Me If You Can does about double the damage of a missed red shell, and Luigi's missed Zapparator actually does more damage than his missed hammer attack. Luigi ends up getting targeted by everything, including all Gust tornadoes, so I revive him with a 1-up DX that's worth recycling. The last charge is used on my only Ultra Nut, which is my best healing item currently. Now that Auto Excellent is recharged, Mario wants to use his Bros attacks every turn. Auto Mushroom, Auto 1-Up, and Auto Syrup all help him be able to do that instead of wasting turns healing until we run out of items. The only issue with these is having to guess which attack the boss will use, and on who. Like on my previous file when I equipped Auto 1-Up predicting Luigi to die to the Gust attack, only for the boss to hit in the worst possible way, leaving both bros extremely low. This time everything worked out, and with the final charge of Auto Excellent, we're just able to beat the Mega Scraptor. So yeah, not quite a free win. That was even with Mario using my power, BP, and speed beans, and Luigi using my heart beans. For anyone curious, right after beating the Mega Scraptor and fighting lower level enemies to recharge my plugs on my first save file, was when I realized speed can give extra turns. With Auto Excellent, basic combats are no longer an issue, as most can be beaten with 2 or 3 Bros attacks, and even if we need to use an item during them, we've got boomerang items. Since I can grind without wear, gloves, or accessories, defeating 300 enemies without those was no issue, and I can complete do-it-yourself for some beans. Some plugs are annoying to fully use up so they can recharge. Most notably, Sure-Footed Guard took 10 minutes to finally use the last charge, but now we're as ready as we can be for Sharpcask. Things look fine at first, but he has a gimmick of entering a guard stance after losing around 25% of his health. The most damage we can do is about 20 with Mario's Bros attacks, but he heals 48 health every single turn, so we can't possibly do enough damage. The only way to get out of this one is either overlevel him by like 50 levels, which first of all, no. Or use Luigi logic to knock him out of his stance like you're supposed to. Unfortunately, that requires moving the conveyor belt to crush him with 6 crates, which is definitely an action command. But what if we just didn't? Sure, only 15 crates fall before the Luigi logic ends, but I'm feeling lucky. Oh, come on. Eels. Escalator. Oh boy, I already know it's over. Give Daddy what he wants. Actually, I deserve to lose that one, that was weird. What do you mean he goes back in box mode? Mario, do something! So yeah, it turns out he keeps going in his defense stance at every 25% health interval, and getting a successful Luigi logic becomes even more unlikely as bombs fall now that destroy crates. Our only hope of beating him before the heat death of my Nintendo Switch is to find a way to have Luigi logic finally work after about 50 tries on average. Yes, there's an average, I spent way too much time on this boss. Assume it only works when he's fully healed, since only doing a handful of Luigi logic attempts before resetting would take so long considering we need multiple turns to even get him in his defense stance. Then knock him from 100% health down to around 20% where he becomes enraged and no longer changes stances. He won't change stances until the attack after he recovers from being stunned for 2 turns due to the Luigi logic. So we basically have 3 attacks to do that much damage. And unfortunately, we can't do that much damage even if I spent days farming golden POW gloves. Thank goodness honestly, because I totally would. So I had to make a compromise. The fight is theoretically possible matching the boss's level if you get Luigi logic to work before he heals too much by using a repeater belt on Mario to give his attacks a 30% boost as long as it's the same attack he used last. This is the first helpful accessory we could only craft by choosing Make It. Then just use your best Bros attacks, and Mario's second attack being the third one would just put Sharpcask in his enraged form. From there we'd have enough damage to finish the fight. And even then we'd also need good RNG of him not using the attack where he rolls 4 times, dealing huge damage to both bros, and hope we don't get stunned. So yeah, that'd just be an RNG nightmare and wouldn't even be a satisfying win since it's just complete luck. Instead, I allowed myself to put the boss in easy mode by dying in the fight 2 times. Obviously, I wouldn't allow using this otherwise, but this basically just lowers the boss's stats, which is the same as overleveling, and I'd rather not do that so I don't overlevel the next boss too. Easy mode makes it so I can damage him from 100% of his health down to his enraged mode without needing the RNG of an extremely lucky early successful Luigi logic, and good luck for the enraged phase. I am sad I had to resort to that, but I didn't want to spend days grinding a boss. This way I can more quickly get back to spending days grinding a boss, but in Cuphead. This fight is another case for auto excellent since we're definitely not doing enough damage to skip to the enraged phase without it. And the mini-boss Goomba and Koopa Battalion is yet another one, as this fight requires us to knock all the enemies out with the same attack. Otherwise they'll indefinitely call for backup. Our only attacks that hit all enemies are Bros attacks with at least some successful action commands. The mini-boss against the Elemental Koopas was the first fight where Auto Herb was needed, as they always attack first and with a group attack that burns Mario and freezes Luigi. Burn does a chunk of percent damage for multiple turns, and freeze makes the affected character unable to act for multiple turns. Mario always unfreezes Luigi with Auto Herb first, so we can use Bros attacks right away and win the fight. Before the boss, I finished a bunch of challenges, mostly multiple of the get 30 excellence with Bros attacks, but also getting 250 lucky hits. I've also been doing every side quest, with the only notable ones being Monster Manias, where you fight regular enemies with some extreme buff. The first one has Crows with defense so high they only take 1 damage from regular attacks. Fortunately, Surprise Iron Ball ignores defense and has a plug combo Iron Cabal to make a ball fall on any enemy hit with the Kaboom attack plug, allowing us to finish the fight before our plugs run out. Monster Mania 2 has Hydroceetals that always fully heal other Hydroceetals that just took damage. I thought this might be an issue, but only 1 Hydroceetal can heal per attack, so just spam Bros attacks that hit all enemies for an easy win. Pipegunk is another boss where Luigi logic is seemingly required to beat, as this boss also heals in its alternate forms. But without doing anything, Luigi will always be pulled away from the remote, so the boss will constantly be in either its buffed fire or ice form. In these forms, it takes less than half the damage we were dealing before, and its attacks become much more deadly. Especially its fire form multi-striking attacks that can take a bro at full health out with the boss's 2 attacks per turn. Both forms inflict burn or freeze. I'll leave it up to you to figure out which form inflicts which. Freeze is the most dangerous, but we're going to need to prevent both to allow the use of Boo Biscuits, so we'll always have Temperature Guard equipped, which has 5 charges and blocks both. We gained a plug slot from beating Sharpcask, but we'll almost always have Sure-Footed Guard and Temperature Guard equipped so we don't just lose to inevitable RNG and another long fight. Without a new strategy, we'd be forced to overlevel yet another boss, and by a lot. But between bosses, we've unlocked a lot more important upgrades. The most important one is that we can now buy Quick Charge Brooches for Mario and Luigi for Make It. These are accessories that make it so when a bro's turn ends, it recharges plugs on cooldown by 2 charges instead of 1. This is huge, as the Boo Biscuit goes from recharging plugs by 5 all the way to 10. As a quick side note, Boo Biscuits recharge plugs by a different amount depending on the fight. Most bosses charge them by 10 now, but when I tested this on a fight against 2 Icids, it consistently recharges plugs by 22. I'll talk more about why I think this happens when it becomes another weakness of Boo Biscuits in another boss. We also have enough Sprite Bulbs to craft Speedy Recharge, which has 5 charges and loses 1 while equipped as another plug fully runs out in exchange for cutting its recharge counter in half. So Auto Excellent will only need 10 of what I'll refer to now as ticks instead of turns to be more clear, since all 10 ticks will be done by the time a 5-turn Boo Biscuit runs out thanks to Quick Charge Brooch. As for gear that'll only be relevant for a while, both bros picked gear slot +1 at level 22 and have Connie Mittens equipped as they buff speed and defense by 10, while reducing damage they take while low. Luigi will be wearing Cozy Wear DX for a while, as it's a higher base defense increase and has one of the best passives in this challenge. To understand the strategy I'll use for this fight, we'll have to talk about one of the most random strengths of Boo Biscuits. While a Boo Biscuit is active, a boss just doesn't heal. I have no idea why this is, but even Sharpcask doesn't heal, and that's all he can do in his defense stance. Because of this incredibly niche interaction, we'll be allowed to spam Boo Biscuits, and with our new upgrades to reduce the time a plug spends on cooldown, we'll actually be able to recharge a plug multiple times in a single boss fight. To start, get as much damage as possible by using Mario's Bomb Derby, his new best single target damage. Then use Luigi's Green Shell to put Pipegunk's health at a point right before it's low enough to trigger Shun using the remote. This will give Mario another opportunity to use Bomb Derby and the real fight can begin. Now, we'll attack with either bro whenever we have a chance. We can use boomerang items on things like Max Nuts and 1-up DXs a lot more often, as a single Boo Biscuit is all we need to recharge Auto Excellent. When Auto Excellent or boomerang items are at their last charge, switch out Sure-Footed Guard for speedy recharge to get them back as quickly as possible. To help us survive, we'll be using Damage Shield to reduce damage taken by 20%. This has 10 charges, and like all shield or guard plugs, only uses 1 charge per attack, even if said attack hits, burns, or stuns multiple times with multiple hits. It has a 30 tick recharge, so try to use it up fully when you're about to use Boo Biscuits. I also try to use speedy recharge on Temperature Guard so I can keep it on for the most amount of turns possible. And that's our loop. We use Auto Excellent and heal with boomerang items when we need to. Use boomerang items on Boo Biscuits to recharge Auto Excellent, and when boomerang items is on its last charge to get it back as soon as possible. Mario is equally likely to be targeted since Luigi is no longer using Bronze Medallion and the boss does huge damage. So we'll rely on Luigi's defense and Cozy Wear DX for him to survive long enough to heal himself and auto 1-up Mario. Whenever we have extra room as plugs recharge, I use Spirited Item to give a bro who ate an item a temporary buff. We're mainly hoping for a defense buff that even stacks with Luigi's Cozy Wear, but more damage, speed, or stash are decent as well. This strategy is so effective that I only used a single Ultra Mushroom while waiting for boomerang items to recharge, and that was only a safety precaution an hour into the fight, which didn't end up being necessary. And soon after, we beat Pipegunk, and without even overleveling for once. I was left wondering if anything could stop us now. Turns out Bowser's pretty good at that. Uh-oh. He counters our new strategy in 2 incredibly stupid ways. First, he has the only attack type in the entire dang game that works while we're using Boo Biscuits. His fist attack knocks a bro out of the fight for a while, and if the other bro faints during that time, it's game over. Needless to say, if Luigi is knocked out of the fight, Mario's frail defenses will quickly lose, and he can't even Boo Biscuit without Luigi. But that's not the only way Bowser counters Boo Biscuits. He also summons minions after all but one of his attacks, and when there are more enemies, Boo Biscuits don't recharge nearly as many ticks of recharging plugs. Before, we were getting 10 ticks back with Quick Charge Brooch, now we only get 4. That's even worse than before we had it. We'll have to rely on some other new tools, Golden POW and Golden Defense Gloves. These are bought on Lottacoins Island for 25,000 coins each. The best way to grind money in this game is to fish once you're on the 4th sea, since you can catch treasure fish roughly every 20 catches with Luigi. Even then, we need to be holding 60,000 coins to get the full 30% boost in power and defense. You already know I'm down for grinding anything that isn't experience points, so I fished, and when I was sick of fishing, I fished even more. I took a picture of my items before fishing so I could sell all those useless items. With these gloves, I tried doing a defensive strategy, but Bowser just does too much damage in his enraged form. That's even with Mario and Luigi both picking Iron Body as their rank up bonus at level 29 to reduce damage taken by 20%. It looks like the only way I'm gonna win is to beat him before he beats me. Mario's got the golden POW gloves for the 30% POW increase, and he'll be using a newly crafted Miraculous Belt for a 15% damage bonus on all Bros moves. The new best single target Bros move is Clockout Blow, which uses both Bros' hammer stat in the damage formula, so both of them have double-edged hammers, which usually has the downside of dealing 5% of the damage dealt back to them. Fortunately, that doesn't trigger on Clockout Blow attacks. We actually have so much damage stacked up that we unlock the Painful Blow achievement by doing over 1000 damage. Once he summons enough minions, we'll use Bomb Derby to clear them out while still dealing decent damage to Bowser. Now, we're just hoping Bowser doesn't use his knockout punch or that he knocks Mario out of the battle, as Luigi is usually able to survive long enough if there aren't many minions summoned, and if we still have some plugs left. Even then, it's pretty common for Mario to faint during the first part of the attack, where Bowser's minions rush Mario and Luigi. It's worth noting that sometimes Bowser is satisfied with the attack and just doesn't do the punch. I think it might have to do with enough minion attacks hitting the Bros, since some fly over them, but it's pretty rare. Our goal is to finish the fight as quickly as possible to avoid this and not run out of plugs. To do this, we'll be taking full advantage of our new plugs, Countdown to Cure and Countdown to Charge. These work differently than other plugs where they have 15 charges that count down by 1 at the end of every turn, and once they reach 0, they'll fully heal both Bros and recharge plugs equipped currently by half, respectively. The best part about them is that I can let them count down to 1 in a regular battle and run away, to come into a boss fight with them ready to be used as soon as I equip them. They take so long to count down and don't even do so while a Boo Biscuit is active that they often only get used once per boss fight. Countdown to Charge is best used to recharge my offensive plugs, Auto Excellent and Bros Boost, which boosts the damage of Bros moves by 20% in exchange for making them twice as expensive. And after a couple of tries of Bowser's knockout attack knocking away any hope of victory, I got lucky with him using his worst attack, leaving him wide open for a Clockout Blow that got him extremely low. He then used 2 attacks that summoned minions, so after Luigi healed both Bros, Mario had to Bomb Derby. But then disaster struck, as Bowser used Knockout Punch and, horrifyingly, only left Mario with his 1 health point and a dream. You see, I was in an awkward position, where Bowser was low enough on health for a regular attack to kill with some plugs. Only problem is that Mario's boots are still the ones from Lottacoin's Island, meant to be replaced by now. But my hammer is the double-edged hammer, dealing damage back to Mario, who, may I remind you, is at 1 HP. So my only hope was that the boss died to a hammer attack before Mario did. Yeah, I think I just have to run it. Please, please die before I do. Please, 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 please. Yes! Okay. The explosion, that means that I win. Let's go. Directly after is the rematch, where Bowser is much more powerful, being pumped full of Glohm and narratively a near unstoppable force, as his power combines with 4 lighthouses full of hatred, all directed at Mario and Luigi. He's way easier this time. He barely summons anymore, and this time they die to a single Bomb Derby hit for some reason. It helps that using Luigi logic in this fight is actually actively bad, as he has a gimmick where he gets stunned to allow the Luigi logic to work in the first place. He'll eventually become immune to this, but not if you just never use it once. So we just spam attacks and he kind of can't do anything. Between the 2 Bowser fights, Mario and Luigi got Bros Pro as their rank up bonus to increase Bros attacks damage by 20%. They're doing so much damage right now that we're able to complete a more painful blow and an even more painful blow for doing 2000 damage. But the good news doesn't stop yet. After the fight, we return to Conductor Island to pick up Sprite Bulbs, unlocking enough to craft every single useful plug in this challenge. The only thing that can stop us now is like a fight that takes away our plugs. You know, I knew this fight was coming up, but it still hurts. The fight against the Great Conductor is a gimmick fight where we can't use plugs and are required to get an excellent rating on bros attacks, which are the only things that can damage the boss. Not being able to use plugs means we can't use auto excellent. I swear, the only reason plugs are banned are so you have to get the excellence yourself. At first, I thought the gimmick was that you needed to get an excellent on multiple different bros attacks to win, but after some testing, I found that it's actually the amount of damage that you do that matters, with the Great Conductor having about 4,000 health. The best strategy I can do to minimize action commands on bros attacks is to only get excellence with Mario and have Luigi miss a regular attack. But even on Cakewalk mode to lower his stats as much as possible, he still takes 2 of Mario's strongest bros attacks with the best defensive gear to beat at his level. Instead of over-leveling him a bunch and trivializing the rest of the game, I'll just count this as 1 bros attack action command, as that would obviously be the minimum if I did over-level him, and the main goal of the video is to find the minimum amount of action commands required to beat the game. For some reason, the 3 remaining Monster Mania quests all unlock at once now. I also picked up the last Sprite Bulb, allowing us to craft every remaining plug, so now it's time to take him for a spin. Monster Mania 3. Girl up with way too much health. Fire does % damage. Enough said. Monster Mania 4. Level 100 Bob-Ombs. A single hit from them kills us, so we'll be using our new plug, Protectus, to fully block an attack. This is incredibly strong, but it only has 3 charges and a 40 tick cooldown, so we'll need some other plugs. I'll finally have a use for Seedle Eyes, a secret side quest plug we got from giving some items we had to farm for, including a treasure fish. It has the chance to turn a non-boss enemy into a level 1 Seedle, though notably doesn't work on minions that bosses summon, thus making it practically useless. I did say practically, as it works on Monster Mania enemies, and with 2 Kaboom plugs and attack boost, it'll cause our attack to cleave and hit all enemies twice, and have a chance to turn them into Seedles. Uh-oh. After a couple tries, it works and we win the fight. Monster Mania 5, Helmet Zoc Trooper Battalion. We need to kill all of them at once, and the easiest way to do that without spending turns lowering their health individually to set up a bros attack is to use Countdown to Crush, our new countdown plug that deals enough damage to kill all of them at full health after a bros attack removes their helmets. We also have some rematches against the Lighthouse bosses to do. I fought Glohm Gobblick before Glohm Bowser, but there isn't anything of note here. We easily outpace his damage with our plugs. But at level 39, we have to fight Glohm Sharpcask before Zokket. And the Extension Corps if you count that as a boss fight for some reason. The problem here is that bombs start falling during the first Luigi logic, so it took even longer to get a single attempt past the initial defense stance. But after 2 long hours of getting cheated out of some successful attempts, yes, finally! What? I finally got to the damage race. This time, we don't need to lower the boss's difficulty to make the win feasible. We can use our new and extremely powerful plug, Watt a Minute, to give the user an extra turn after their turn ends, as long as it isn't already an extra turn given by Watt a Minute. This allows Mario to use 2 fully boosted bros attacks and gives the next turn to Luigi. Except for some reason, not during my actual attempt. In practice attempts, it always passed the turn to Luigi while keeping Sharpcask stunned for one of his turns, and the boss becoming on-stunned during Luigi's extra turn. By then, he could just use another bros attack to enrage the boss and finish the fight from there. During my actual 2-hour attempt, Sharpcask just cheated and made Mario faint from 2 attacks. Okay, we can still salvage this, hopefully. Make sure Luigi doesn't attack to trigger Sharpcask's defense stance. He needs to revive Mario and recharge our important plugs with Countdown to Recharge, forcing him to have another turn with Watt a Minute, where he recovers Mario's BP. Clockout Blow breaks the Glohm shield with its multiple hits, and it's just enough damage to enrage the boss so we can finally win. The extension corps are extremely easy. We just need to recharge our important plugs with countdown to charge again to get to the final phase where we can use a Boo Biscuit for its intended purpose, for once. The fight against Zokket throws a wrench in our new strategy. If he Glohms a bro, instead of preventing them from using bros attacks and Boo Biscuits, now it forces them to fight for him instead. The only way to cure them is to use a defensive action command to block their hammer attack and then choose not to damage them after they're knocked down. Not even Auto Ampberry will heal the Glohm at the start of the turn as they switch sides before it activates. It looks like our best bet is to intentionally let one bro faint, as Zokket won't take control of a bro if the other one is KO'd. And with Mario having the defense of a wet paper, Luigi is the obvious choice to solo the fight. Before he does, I reset for an attempt where Mario can do 2 clock out blows with Watt a minute, and Luigi got some bros attacks in as well. Mario dies in one hit since Last Ditch Gloves KOs a bro if they take any damage. Now it's time for Luigi to win by doing absolutely everything. Mario wahoo! So stupid. Luigi's already got high defense with golden defense gloves. That's not enough to survive for long on its own, so he's also got Zokket Wear to boost his defense by 30% while Mario is KO'd. Now Luigi only takes 5 to 6 damage from Zokket's attacks in his base form. He'll switch between that and his powered up form every couple of turns. That form is what we'll really have to play around, as he does about 20 to 24 damage per hit with his attacks, and even lowers defense as a counterattack to Luigi's hammer. We can't use Boo Biscuits alone, but we've got enough plugs to work with. We'll use boomerang items for full heals, sometimes needing to fully heal twice while Zokket is in his powered up form, as he'll get 2 attacks on the slower Luigi after any of Luigi's actions. Only use defensive plugs like Protectus and Damage Shield while Zokket is in this form. Our plugs will need to recharge a couple of times in this fight, but we can recharge important plugs once with countdown to charge, and use speedy recharge on others. Luigi still has Quick Charge Brooch since he can actually live long enough to get value out of it alone. We also have a new plug, Charge Bank, which we'll use to break the game later, as it has 3 charges and will use up one of its charges instead of a different plug. It's got a lot of bad synergies like stopping countdown plugs from counting down, and can use all of its charges in one turn if multiple plugs activate at the same time. But we can use it here on Protectus or Boomerang items. The upside is that it has a separate cooldown from other plugs, allowing it to start recharging so we can get it back quickly as it only has a 20 tick recharge. As for damage, Luigi uses his hammer attack whenever he isn't healing with an item. He usually has anti-Zokket specialist when attacking to get a critical hit. That's some big damage there, oh boy. Are you okay, Zokket? We even get a little use out of regular attack modifying plugs like Dizzyfying Attack for once, as they increase regular attack damage by 15% even without an excellent. These plugs haven't been useful before since bosses are immune to status effects. While Zokket's in his regular form, Luigi can use Auto Excellent, Attack Boost, and Surprise Iron Balls for even more pathetic damage. Back Ashy Attack is another plug to help us sneak in some damage with counterattacks of our own, though it's random if it's a jump attack or hammer. I also used Countdown to Crush at the start of the fight. Wataminut's secret best quality is getting a free turn to recharge plugs, and using all of our plugs efficiently made this a surprisingly easy fight, with Luigi showing Zokket the true meaning of Brothership. By himself. Glohm Gorumbla doesn't have any gimmicks we need to play around, so he's no issue. Before facing Reclusa, we've got the Pipegunk rematch, but first, we got our last rank up bonus, being able to select 2 this time. I thought Hammerhead boosting hammer attacks by 20% would be the best to synergize with Clock Out Blow, but for some reason Hammerhead doesn't affect Clock Out Blow, even though which hammer is equipped does, so that confuses me. That makes Casual Bros reducing BP of Bros attacks by 30%, and Big Lucky to increase lucky damage the only useful ones left for both bros, and they're not even that useful. Kind of underwhelming this time, considering how necessary every other rank up bonus has been. We're able to finish every challenge in the game now thanks to Auto Excellent, so we're as powerful as we can be. Glohm Pipegunk is the deadliest boss we've fought so far, as a single attack will kill Mario from full health and bring Luigi down to half health. And that's not even during its turn, that's just a counter attack. So is that it? Are we forced to overlevel for the first time since Sharpcask? Is there really nothing we can do against Glohm Pipegunk's instant killing attacks? I'll answer that question with another one. What if the boss just never got a turn to attack? That's right, we've been slowly assembling the pieces of Exodia throughout the entire game. Each piece powerful on its own, but unstoppable together if used correctly. We've been using Boo Biscuits and Quick Charge Brooch together to recharge plugs, but it's time to overcharge that with Overcharged Brooch. This reduces plugs' recharge ticks by 3 at the end of each turn in exchange for 5% of the wearer's health, in this case both bros. It won't cost anything while a Boo Biscuit is active, which is great because the plan is to use Boo Biscuits and get them back with boomerang items like always. Only this time, have boomerang items and Charge Bank equipped at the same time, so Charge Bank always loses a charge instead. This will let us use all 3 charges of Charge Bank to put it on cooldown for 20 ticks. But this is where Speedy Recharge comes in, giving Charge Bank a 10 tick cooldown. And if we use its last charge while eating a Boo Biscuit, we'll always get it back by the time we can act again. And we'll get Speedy Recharge back as it will always recharge during Charge Banked Boo Biscuits. Mario's speed really shines here as bosses don't ever get to attack after a Boo Biscuit wears off anymore. Okay, so we infinitely waste our turns being invincible. What does this accomplish? Well, that's due to what other plugs are recharging during that time. This lets us ensure that we always have Watt a minute when attacking, and during the extra turn, I just Boo Biscuit again. Once Watt a minute runs out, we start the loop all over again, making it so bosses never get a turn of their own. That's obviously extremely powerful, but that's still not enough on its own against Glohm Pipegunk, as the boss always does a counterattack that bypasses Watt a minute. This is why we'll always have defensive plugs equipped when attacking Pipegunk. We'll only attack him if we have Watt a minute, Auto Excellent, Protectus, Glohm Guard, and Temperature Guard, making his counterattack do no damage and never ruin an attempt with a status effect. We'll need to use items to recover health and BP, but we can do that for our first turn and then Boo Biscuit during the Watt a minute turn instead of attacking every once in a while. This wouldn't work against specific fights like the Bowser one if we had access to all these plugs at that point, as summons lower the amount of recharge ticks we get, and attacks that knock a bro out of battle prevent us from using Boo Biscuits, but nothing else in the entire game can stop this, including Reclusa. But don't get your hopes up too much. Reclusa's first phase plays like a minigame, having Mario and Luigi move around on a plug to dodge combats against Reclusa's minions, and shoot him down with fire and ice balls. We can minimize action commands here by just fighting some of the minions while we slowly catch up to Reclusa, but if we don't shoot him down while we can, he'll always run away, so we're forced to do that, which I'll count as one action command. We can keep this at 1 by beating him before he runs away again, which is easily done with Mario getting 2 Conductor Connector Bros attacks on him with Watt a minute. During the next phase of the fight, we're forced to ride the plug up into the Solitary's mouth to convert Reclusa again, which unfortunately is yet another action command. I'm not going to waste time figuring out if it's possible to ride the plug all the way up to the mouth before having to blast this orb to progress the fight without shooting or moving, since you only get 1 attempt at the Luigi logic before having to rescue Snotlet to do it again. But this time it's easy to call a single use of Luigi logic a single action command. Reclusa has 3 more phases, Weeping Core, Reclusa, and Enraged Reclusa, but he doesn't have any more tricks that require action commands, and each phase can be beaten with our Exodia build. After winning, there's a cutscene where you have to press the hammer buttons to attack Reclusa, but if you don't press anything, you just awkwardly fall forever, so even if you consider this a battle instead of a minigame, you can't miss it, disqualifying it as an action command by my rules. That makes the total number of action commands required 5. 1 counter, 1 regular attack, 1 bros attack, 1 minigame during combat, and 1 Luigi logic. As unfortunate as it is to have to use action commands in the first place, I'm happy with all the action commands we were able to avoid even when the odds were against us, and when we had to use every resource available. Thanks for watching. If you like the challenge, you might enjoy my other no action command challenges and bug fables and TTYD. And hey, maybe subscribe if you want to see more of my videos. Whoa.